Yo, today I'm gonna teach you how to sample tracks and chop samples in FL Studio. And by the end of this video, you'll be a pro at sampling. People often view sampling as exclusive to hip-hop and trap music, but it's often used in EDM and house tracks as well. So no matter what genre you are making, it's definitely useful to have knowledge on sampling tracks. Also, this video is brought to you by Truglip, more on that later. Anyways, here we are in FL Studio, and the first thing for sampling is of course a track that we can sample. It's up to you where you get your sample. I'm gonna get mine from Truglip because it's the only official platform where you can sample tracks. There's thousands of tracks to sample, from like 70s soul to recent modern music. And right now they are doing a credit matching campaign, which means if you got any unspent credits on other platforms like Splice or LoopCloud and you are not really using them, if you switch to Truglip, they will match your credits from the other platforms and you'll get them assigned to your new Truglip account. And the best thing about this is you are not only getting access to all of these tracks you can sample, but they also have royalty-free samples, loops, one-shots, instruments, you name it, and sample packs from Grammy-winning producers. So check it out, link is in the description below, bring your unused credits to Truglip, and expand your sample library. And the sample I chose is this one. Really nice soul sample, so I just downloaded it and we can drag it right into FL Studio. But don't worry, if you got your sample from elsewhere, you can still follow along with this tutorial. So the sample is in, and the first thing we need to do is determine the BPM. Now for Truglip, you already know the BPM, but let's pretend we don't. So the easiest way to do it is just to tap the BPM. So we're gonna right click on the BPM and press tap. Now play the song with the spacebar and tap with your mouse to determine the BPM. Okay, so it's 120, and when I say tap with your mouse, basically tap where the beats would go. You can also make a metronome sound with your mouth to help you out. So when you play the song, so that's how you tap in the BPM. Another thing you can do when you got the right idea of the BPM, just double click the sample, go to time, right click it, auto detect, from 75 to 150, just press that and it's gonna adjust the BPM to the correct one. But it did a pretty good job. Now we can actually enable the metronome, press play. And it seems the BPM is pretty much right on track. Either way, it's not that important that we get the BPM exactly right, because we're gonna chop this sample up anyways, so it's not gonna be playing throughout the whole thing. And then the second important thing to set up the sample is to know the key of the sample. Again, we know it's G minor because Truglip tells us that, but a lot of the times you won't know. So how do you determine it? I actually got a pretty cool way to do it. You open up Newton, so go to your master channel in the mixer, go to Newton, Newtone, whatever, and drag your sample in. Once you drag it in, it will determine what notes are in the sample. So you can see it right here in Newtone. So this is not only cool for determining the key, but also for seeing what notes are used for the bass, for example. You can see right here, the bass is at G sharp. Right there. We still don't know the key. So what you're gonna do once Newtone determines the notes, you're just gonna select any sound in the channel rack, for example flex, and press this button in Newtone, which is send to piano roll. Click that and it's gonna send the notes into piano roll in flex. So what you're gonna do is go here, view, scale highlighting, automatic, and when you hover over piano roll in the top left corner, you can see the key is set to G minor. So that's the key of our song. Really useful to know that information when working with samples or creating melodies. You know you should be creating melodies in G minor. So now we know the BPM and the key. Anyways, now let's start with some chopping. There's many ways to chop a sample in FL Studio, and I'm gonna show you a few of the best ones. So the most basic one is to grab the slice tool and start slicing up the sample. So you just slice wherever you want, and then you move the sample about. And you can cut it, shorten it, whatever. And you can definitely create a nice chopped melody this way. Another thing to consider is, let's say we want this chop to be slightly different. So we can go and click on this button right here and either make it unique. That will mean it will create another instance of the same sample, which you can edit separately. So if we do make unique, it created a copy of the sample, but of the whole thing, of the whole song that we put in. So this is the whole song and this one is a copy of it. So if we pitch this one down, for example, right here, we'll have the original sample. And then we have the pitched down version of the sample, again, of the whole thing. So that's usually not very useful when you are sampling to create many copies of the same sample, because it takes a longer time to work with it since you are always creating a copy of the whole song. Let me just undo that. What you can do instead is grab the slice you want and make it unique as sample. That's only gonna create a unique sample for this part of the sample. It's just gonna copy this slice. So make unique as sample, you need to save it, and then you have a new slice which you can edit separately. If we extend it, there is no more track in there. It's just this slice. And then we can edit this slice separately. Another thing we can do with it is stretch it out. It's that length, but if we press on this button, which is the stretch audio, we can extend that, and now the sample will be longer. Or we can shorten it. And don't forget to turn off the stretch function when you just want to cut the sample. Turn it off. So that's one thing to note. If you are stretching the whole sample, so you don't have just the one cut that we made unique, then it's gonna stretch all of the slices from that sample instance. So if we shorten this one, it's gonna shorten those ones as well. That's why you always wanna make each slice unique as sample if you wanna edit it separately. Otherwise, you're just gonna edit the whole song. And yeah, now I shortened it and you can hear it's in a different pitch. So we can double click it. And if we want it to be in the correct pitch, we just go to E3 generic. And that's gonna set the pitch to the one that it was originally. If we do resample, it's gonna change the pitch based on how we stretched it out. So if we stretch it out even more, it's gonna be deeper. So I actually like this pitched up version here, so let's keep that in. Okay, so this is how you chop the samples right in the playlist. One more tip I can give you to make an interesting effect is to grab this sample, drag it into channel rack, create a new pattern. So now we have it in the channel rack, like so, and we can crossfade it so it plays infinitely. And then you can go to piano roll and put the note on C5, and if we just extend it like so, and then if you put it in the playlist, it will play infinitely from there. And make sure to put the velocity all the way up so it's the same volume as the slices. So that's the crossfade. You can use that to your advantage to make some interesting chops. So this is how you chop samples in the playlist. It's not my favorite method. The next one I'm gonna show you is the way that I do it usually. But before we do that, one last tip chopping samples in the playlist or in general is add some drums into the playlist, sometimes even before you start chopping, so you can see how it will sound with a drum beat. And again, to get drum samples, I'm gonna use Traglip. So let me just grab some drum loop that I can use in the song. Let's say boom bap. For example, this one, let's just download it. You download the sound and now you own it. Now that we got the sample, let's just drag it into FL Studio and it's right here. As you can see, once again, we know the BPM is 90, but a really simple way to adjust the BPM so you don't have to type it in is to just double click it and move the time knob so it fits the grid like this. Now let's hear it. Okay, so it's way too fast because the original drum loop is 90 BPM and the track is set to 120. So we can actually set the track to 90 now and press restretch all channels now, yes. And now what happened, you can hear the pitch is off for the samples. So what you can do is double click them and make sure the mode is set to E3 generic, or you can do auto. It will choose the mode for you, but it did choose E3 generic. So make sure all of the samples are set to that. And now the pitch should be the same as before. So that's the first method of sampling, right in the playlist. It definitely works, but what I prefer is using another plugin in FL Studio to chop our samples. So let's remove this, keep the drum beat, and we're gonna add SliceX. So this plugin is really cool for chopping samples. Let's just add it in like this, grab our sample, the full one, and drag it into SliceX, like so. So now it's in the SliceX and there are no chops yet. So you can add them with add region 1, and then we have a slice and we can put it anywhere we want. Then we can add another and move it like right here. And now you have 2 slices. Just like so. But let's delete those. And what I prefer to do is go here, auto slice, and I'm gonna do medium grid slicing. Or you can try small grid slicing, or you can try large grid slicing. So I think large is the best one for this sample. So we have bigger slices like this one. So it adds the slices in beats like this, one after another, but you can also adjust it once you start working with the slices. So how do we work with the slices? Well, close SliceX and open up a new pattern and open SliceX in piano roll right here. Now you can see we get all the slices right here. And we can create a chopped melody. Let's enable the metronome as well. And we can just work with the slices in this way. And we can add that in the playlist and play it with the drums. And then if you open up SliceX again and play your sample, you can see the samples that are being activated. So if one of them is like off, you can adjust it right here so it's more precise. And then all of our slices are gone, because once you adjust it, it will automatically replace the slices with this. So you want to turn that function off, but you can use Ctrl-Z to undo that. And if you don't want that to happen, you need to disable the auto dump, which I don't know why it's enabled by default, because you want to edit the slices without ruining your chopped melody. So now if you move the marker, nothing will happen. So make sure to disable the auto dump. And then we can select the marker, double click it, and we are actually editing the region settings for the marker 11. So we can change up a few things about this one slice. For example, the pitch. Like so. If you want to put it back to default, just press with your mouse wheel. We can also go here, go to time stretch and pitch shift. And for example, we can make this region longer by increasing this. Then pressing spacebar to preview it. You can also make it shorter. It's shorter if you accept it. Also, you can hear this click in the sounds. So what I recommend, while nothing is selected, go here and declick out all regions and also declick in all regions. Now there will be no click. Way better. So that's how you edit the slices in SliceX. But you can also do it in piano roll. If you just go to piano roll, press any of the slices as the note, double click it. You can increase the pitch, for example, and then preview it with spacebar, just like so. Anyways, Okay, so this is how you can use SliceX to cut your samples, which I prefer because you can really easily make another melody if you want to. So delete this one and maybe preview it with a drum beat. And just go along and see what works. And of course, you can start putting effects on the sample itself. Just go to settings, put it on a new mixer track. And now you can put reverb, for example, and sound goodizer to make it pop a bit more. Another cool thing, put gross beat on it to chop up the slices more randomly. And you can play around with that. Okay, so that's another way you can chop the samples. But now a very important thing is the bass. You usually want to create your own bass for the slices and not have the bass from the song in the sample. So what we're going to do is consolidate this track, the chopped sample track. So just consolidate it. Now we have an audio file. And we're going to put that audio file into new tone. So just drag it in. And we can see here is the new tone track sliced in. So open up a new instance of Flex, for example, with a bass sound. And then press this button in Newton to send the MIDI notes to the Flex piano roll. And now that helped us determine the notes of the bass. So it's not perfect, like the pitch is changing, it's not just showing us the bass notes, but we can pretty confidently say the bass note is C3. And then if we go back to view scale highlighting and we set our scale to what we found out in the beginning, which was minor and G, then we can see the notes that we can use in G minor. And I'm using the Control Q to quantize the notes because they are not quantized from Newton. So just Control Q when you select them. And then you have a basic outline of the bass. So now if we play the bass along with the sample, you can hear it will sound pretty good. Yeah, so the notes are correct for the bass. One more thing you want to do is go back to the sample and remove the bass frequencies from it. So go to parametric EQ2, type high pass, lower this to 4 dots, and just remove the low frequencies from the sample so we don't have the bass in the sample. And then we have the bass separately. And now we can play it like this. Maybe switch it up. Just follow the highlighted notes, so not the dark ones. If you set the scale to the scale of your sample, which is minor and G, then you can see the highlighted notes are the ones you can use, and the darker ones are not in G minor. And we can just adjust it like this. Now we have this. Now the last thing I want to show you is how you can put all of this knowledge together. Now I already created a project with this sample, so I'm going to show you in that project what I did to use all of this knowledge that I gave you and use it in a proper track. So here's my track, and I used the same sample and chopped it up using SliceX, the same way as I showed you, as you can see right here. And this is the chopped melody that I created. Then I added the bass. And then what you want to do is add more sounds that complement the sample. So for example, I went with a piano melody, which sounds like this. Then we have this. So you want to add some elements of your own to complement the sample. One more thing I did is use Serum with this choir sound to sort of complement the vocal parts of the sample and make them more obvious. But let me just consolidate it, because Serum 2 while recording is not a good match. So it sounds like this. So the parts of the sample are more obvious because we are adding more elements to it, which makes it a bit more interesting. And then of course I added some drums. Again, grabbing some samples from Traglib. I also added this guitar, so it goes nice with the whole sample. And then of course you want to switch it up a few times, so the chopped sample is not just repeating, but you have some different parts of it playing as well, like right here. And what I like to do is put the whole sample at the beginning to sort of introduce it to the listener. And of course I couldn't help myself, so I added some rap and vocals just for fun to try how it would sound. And then with all the knowledge that I taught you today, we ended up with this.
Anthem, quarters to fate. Every step sacred, hunger don't wait. Pavement hotter than the devil's cigar, but I'm gassed up, dreams fueling the corner. Skyline whispers, promises to keep. Chasing gold dust while the world's asleep. Heavy clouds hang, but my soul won't bow till the throne of struggles healing now.
Skyline whispers, promises to keep. Chasing gold dust while the world's asleep. Skyline whispers, promises to keep. Building slow struggles here and now.
So that is it. That's how you chop samples in FL Studio to create something like this in the end. I hope you enjoyed this video. Check out Traglib. They will match your credits from other platforms so you can get started sampling yourself. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.